So we have quite a few countries: Pakistan, Kazakhstan, Moldova, Jamaica. Very nice, very nice. Ukraine, Romania, the United States, Argentina, India. Wow, everybody is from somewhere else. North Macedonia, very nice. I didn't even know that there is a North and South Macedonia, or it's a new name, I guess, right? Bangladesh, very nice. Puerto Rico, USA, Barbados, very nice. All right, so it seems like the system is working, and somebody told me that the chat is delayed, so I hope that it will all work in the end. But let me briefly tell you what we are going to do here today, and we will get with the presentation. So first, welcome to the Xculture project. Today, the plan is to review how this project works, what you should expect from it, and most importantly, what you need to do to successfully complete the program. Hi, my name is Dr. Vastaras. So I am at the University of North Carolina in Greensboro here in the United States. I'm not sure if you see my window. So it's a morning here, just woke up. So I'm the founder and the coordinator for the Xculture project. And before we get into what you need to do, let me review briefly what Xculture is and how it works. So those of you who don't know, you kind of know where we are coming from and what we are trying to do in general. And then we will talk specifically about the 2019 round of the Xculture Academy program, the one that you will be participating in, and we will talk about the details and things that you need to know to succeed in this project. If you have questions, you can ask them anytime, and there are several ways you can ask them. One, you can raise your hand, and I see several people have been trying to raise their hand. For now, I will lower your hands. I assume for now you were just practicing with this thing. But if you have questions, you will be able to raise your hand, and I will add you here to the panel, and we will talk. Or better yet, you can just type your questions in the Q&A window. I will see your question and I will answer it. But first, give me a few minutes to provide a general overview. So the Xculture project started about 10 years ago in this very office. So when I came to this university and started teaching international business. So at that time, I would frequently find myself in this difficult situation where I would be standing in front of a class of students in a classroom, and I would be telling them that international business is different from regular business, and doing business with, for example, Germans is different than doing business with, for example, Brazilians or Americans. And my students wouldn't always quite understand what I'm trying to tell them. It's not that they wouldn't believe me, but it's difficult to understand what it is like to work with people from other countries when you haven't ever met people from other countries or worked with them. It's as if you're trying to learn how to swim on a football field, right? You know that you need to get in the water to learn how to swim. Same thing with international business. You have to get in the international environment to truly understand international business. And so here in North Carolina, even though we do have many international students at this university, as you understand, students who immigrated here or came to study here are not exactly, how should I put it, they are international, but they are somewhat acculturated. And so I was looking for ways to give my students an opportunity to work with people really from different countries, in different countries. And so one day I had an idea that maybe I could find a professor in a different country who also teaches international business. And I thought maybe my students and that professor's students would work in international teams across cultural differences, across time zone differences, across language differences. And so this way, whatever I tell my students in the classroom, they will have an experience with it in the real life. And so one day I simply sent out an email for the Academy of International Business, which is our main professional association, simply asking if anyone wants to work with me on this project. And so quite a few professors replied. And at the first time when we did it in 2010, we had about 400 university students from 7 countries, 7 universities. Now, it must have been the right idea at the right time, because ever since, more and more professors applied and wanted to participate in this project. And so every year we would have more and more universities. For example, last semester we had over 5,000 students, 187 universities or something like that, and they came from about 40 different countries. Now, that's the university program. So most of the participants in X-Culture are university students, MBA students, business students from different universities. And so for them, X-Culture is part of the course. So they would enroll in an international business course or international marketing course, and then X-Culture is part of that course. So they have a professor who teaches the subject in the classroom, and then in addition, they participate in this project so that they can apply in real life the concepts and theories that they learn in the classroom. Now, for many, many years, the professors who participate in X-Culture have been asking if their children can participate in the project as well. So a professor would call me and say, hey, Vas, I have a son or a daughter. He or she is 15 years old, very smart, very talented, goes to a private school, will be going to college in a few years. I really love X-Culture. Can my child participate in this project? And I would say no, because X-Culture is for university students. But then at some point we thought, hey, why not try it? Why not have a few teams comprised of children and see how they do? Maybe we will give them a little bit more training. Maybe we will give them a little different challenges, maybe something simpler, something easier, and see if they can participate in this project. And so about 2 semesters ago, for the first time, we actually tested that program, and it worked very well. So the first time we did it, we had about 100 kids, and the ages were from 9 to 17. So we had some teams that were very young, and then some teams that are older and are about to go to college. And it actually worked very well. In fact, I have 2 children, and they participated in the first round. I just wanted to see how things go, how it works kind of from the inside. And I was amazed. It worked very well. So the children enjoyed working with kids from other countries. I was surprised that they often would stay on Skype or on Zoom for hours, talking not only about the business challenge they're working on for the project, but about all kinds of things, about school, about movies, about music. So that was a very interesting experience. And even though my kids were born in Canada and grew up mainly in the United States and visited many other countries, for them it was an interesting international experience. They had team members from all around the world, and they genuinely enjoyed working with people from those different countries. Sometimes they would wake me up at 6 a.m. because they have a meeting with a team member or team members from India or China. And so it's a weekend and I want to sleep, and they're up on the phone talking to the team, which is good. That's exactly what we want them to learn. Time zone differences, cultural differences, linguistic differences, institutional differences. I was also very surprised that with children, the biggest value, I guess, or things that they learned most were not even those cultural differences or business differences, but basic mundane things that I thought everybody knows. Like, for example, how to write an email. Turns out my children didn't know how to write a business email. I mean, they always communicate on the phone, in the chat. So they would write 2 words and put a smiley face here, and that's all they do. And here they have to write a business report, many pages. And they have to do it in a team of 7 people, everybody in a different country. And so you have to write full sentences. You have to explain your thought fully, because otherwise people will not understand what you're trying to say. And so literally we had to sit down and I had to show them how to properly compose an email so that your business team can understand what you're saying. So in the end, they did a pretty good job. And so every team submitted their proposal for the client company, and the client companies actually liked the ideas. And ever since we started doing the children's track in addition to the university track. So we would have a few companies that make products that are more appealing to the kids. Like, for example, in the past, we had companies like Milata Chocolate. It's a Colombian company that makes chocolate. Or InnoSpark from Lithuania. It's a company that makes toys. Or, for example, we had the Experiential School of Greensboro as a client. And so this is a school that teaches children through experience. And so they wanted the children to design a school of their dreams. So they said, if you could design any school from scratch, what your school would look like, what the building would look like, what the classrooms would look like, How would you teach the children? How would you select the teachers? And so that's, something that kids have a lot of ideas about. And so they share their ideas, and they propose quite a few interesting ideas. Sometimes maybe parents help, which is okay. In fact, that's something we encourage. We would like the parents to be as involved as possible. And so it's a nice bonding experience for the kids and parents, and a nice learning experience for the kids and for the parents. Now, another track that we added a few years ago was what we call the professionals track. Again, our students graduate, get jobs, talk to friends about X-Culture, or simply talk to friends about X-Culture. And we started getting a lot of emails from people who would say something like this. They would say, I am, 20, 30, 40 years old, and I have, a job where maybe I go to university, and I've heard about X-Culture, and I really would like to participate in X-Culture, but I don't know if I can enroll because I'm not taking a course that is part of X-Culture. And so can I enroll individually? And again, first we would say no, because X-Culture was designed for participants who are university students. But then we thought, hey, if there are talented people, who would like to participate in the project, and they're just not lucky enough to be at a university that participates in X-Culture, why not let them participate individually? And so again, initially it would be just a few people here and there, but now more and more professionals, non-students, apply and participate in the project. Again, we still place them just like everybody else in international teams. Each team is comprised of about 6-7 people, each person in a different country. We just have separate teams comprised of university students. Then we have teams comprised of children, again, matched by age. So if your child is 9 years old, the child will work with other 9-year-olds. If your child is 15, the team will be with other children of 15. If it's a non-student adult, someone who is 30 years old and just wants to gain this international experience and wants to meet people from other countries and gain some business experience, the person will be on a team with other professionals. And so we keep them a little separate, of course, but the whole idea is still the same. People are, team members are in different countries, and they have to complete a business consulting project for a real client while working with people from those different countries. Now, this semester, in terms of the numbers, and I'm not sure if my assistant is here. If you are here, raise your hand. I'll add you to the panel. So, but we had a wonderful assistant here who was helping us with. Okay, here he is. Let me just move him to the panelist. Yeah. So we have one of our X-Culture partners and graduates and now administrators who helped me run the recruitment campaign. You don't have the video, Yev? In that case, I'll probably just, yeah, all right. So he ran a very wonderful campaign online. So what we did is a lot of applicants came from, basically referrals of friends, former participants. But then we thought, hey, we have this X-Culture Facebook page, and we have like 250,000 followers on the Facebook page. And then maybe we thought maybe we should put some ads there. And then on top of that, maybe we should even pay for a few ads for countries that are not really represented. And so I checked this morning, so it looks like we have accepted approximately 1,400 applicants, right? Something like that, is that correct? So some people were not accepted because their applications were not strong enough, but quite a few were accepted. And if I counted correctly, we have 105 countries, is that correct? Yes, so we have basically the United Nations, almost every country on the planet represented. So if we could add a few more, we literally would have every country on the planet. So we have 105 countries, that's the non-university students, so children and professionals. And then so at this time, it's approximately 1,400 people. And then in addition to that, we expect about 5,000 university students, again, approximately 180 universities, 45 countries or so this semester. I don't have the final numbers because the university students, they start a little later, and so we are still accepting applications, so the numbers may slightly change. And so from the academy track, so a good portion of those are children, and so they will be in the children's teams, and then some of them are professionals, and so they will be in teams of professionals. Most of them applied individually. So when we started doing this X-Culture Academy program, we thought that most of the participants in the children's track will be students from schools. And so we thought there would be a teacher
and the teacher would join with a class of kids, just like what we do at the university level. And we do have quite a few participants like that. So we have quite a few schools that participate as a whole school or as a class of students. But what we found was that while most teachers we talked to really loved the program and they really wanted to participate in the program, give their kids an opportunity to gain international experience, in most cases, they didn't quite know what to do with us. So they didn't quite know how to add a massive project like this to their curriculum. And so in most cases, what happened was that some parents would talk to the teacher. The teacher says, I love the idea, but I don't know what to do with that. So the parents would then come back to us and say, hey, can my child enroll individually? Not as part of a class, but individually. And we thought, why not? And so most of the participants would actually be individual applicants. And so as before, we have ages 9 to 17, although most of the participants are pre-college, basically, 16, 15, 17 years of age. And most of them seem to be participating for the purpose of gaining experience, developing the resume, and so that when in a few years they will be applying to colleges, they have a better chance of being accepted as part of this, getting a scholarship and being accepted to the school. But in terms of how it works, very simple. So because you are not university students, you don't have a professor whose job it is to make sure that you come in prepared. So we want to make sure that you do come in prepared. And so unlike university students that have only a couple of weeks of training, the academy participants have to complete 4 weeks of training. And so over the next 4 weeks, what you will do is you will go through all kinds of theoretical training modules. And for a week, you will study. And then at the end of the week, you will take a test, and then it will repeat. So there will be 4 weeks of training. There will be 4 theoretical tests or theory tests. And let me see if I can share it here. I'll show you. So I send you the link to the materials, and I will share them again before Monday. But basically, if you go to xculture.org/2019-3, that's where your theory training materials are located, 2019-3. And so, oops, I think I misspelled the page address, so 2019-3. So in the emails, I send you the link, and I mean the password for the page. But yes, basically, that's where you will see your training materials. And so for week 1, all you have to do is to watch a bunch of videos and then read the training module for the academy. And so when you click on the link here, it will open your training module and the handbook here, right? And then those of you who would like to learn more, sometimes there will be optional readings. Like, for example, even though you are not university students, I gave you access also to the professor handbook. So if you're a teacher or a parent or a student who wants to learn more, you can also look at the training professor's handbook, what the professors do to make sure that their students are prepared. Likewise, there is a training module for the university students. You're welcome to read it. It's a long and boring document, but it covers a lot of interesting stuff here. And so sometime on Monday, you will receive an email with a link to the theory test week 1. And so you will have until the end of the week, until Sunday, to complete the test. And at that point, we will make sure that you did well enough on the test. And if you pass the test, you advance to the next week, and then next week, and then next week. And then after 4 weeks, we sort of have a good idea as to whether or not you're ready or not. Now, one of the things I would like to say, and this is very, very important about the theory test, the main purpose there is not even so much to train you, but to select you. And let me explain what I mean here. This is extremely important. After the theory training is over, you will advance to the practical training phase. So you will be placed in a team with 6 or 7 other people from other countries, and you will work as a team member. So there will be 6, 7 countries represented on your team, and you will be completing a project with people from all around the world. There will be a real client, a real organization, a real business that will ask you for help, and your job will be to develop a solution to that challenge. And on the resource page that I just showed you, I already posted the challenges from the last semester, so you can see what the companies were asking last semester. It will be a new list of companies this time, but the idea will be the same. Now, very important, you will work in teams. So if somebody on the team is not ready or is not participating actively enough, the whole team suffers. Like you wouldn't want to have someone on your team who wouldn't show up for meetings, who doesn't do his or her part of work, or maybe who doesn't speak English fluently enough so that you can communicate with your team members. So you don't want people like that. And so this 4-week training is not only training, but also selection. So there will be many people. I said we have about 1,400 applicants that we have accepted so far. But I have no doubt that many, and maybe most, will not pass the training. What will probably happen is some people will never take the tests. They applied, they thought it's a good idea, to work with people from all around the world, to participate in this university program. But then when the time comes to actually do the job, they have other things, they have school, they have maybe some sports, maybe they're just simply lazy or irresponsible. It happens. And so what will happen is some people will never even try to take the test. And what it tells us that I'm glad that they didn't, because if I put someone like that on a team, the person would spoil the experience for the entire team. So obviously we don't want people who are irresponsible, who are not diligent, who are not able to maintain that level of performance week after week after week. So we don't want people like that on teams, right? So obviously, by not completing the tests, they sort of tell us that you cannot rely on me, you cannot, ask me or expect me to perform well as a team member. Then there will be also some people who will take every test, but will not do very well on that test. Maybe they are not fluent enough in English, or maybe they are, I don't know, I don't want to say not smart enough, but maybe they're just not careful enough when they read the questions and they don't fully understand them. Again, you probably don't want a team member like this. And so again, we will probably not allow them, we will not allow them to participate in the practical phase. So during these 4 weeks, we will try to train you. We will try to teach you how to be a member of a global virtual team, how to use online communication tools such as Google Docs and Dropbox and Slack and Trello, and how to write emails and things like that. There will be a training module a week on international business, where we will teach you the basics of international business, how to do market analysis, how to decide on the best market entry mode, how to design a marketing strategy, how to design an HR strategy. Nothing super difficult, but things that usually people don't quite know how to do. So we will train you, but at the same time, we will very carefully watch your performance. And, are you able to meet the deadlines? Are you submitting your work every week? Are you able to answer those questions correctly? And if you are, we are very happy. That tells us that you're probably ready to work in an international team. And then again, if you miss a test, or if you cannot answer enough questions, or if you simply, miss the deadlines all the time, or too late, or I don't know, something else goes wrong, that tells us, well, maybe this person is not ready. Maybe we should wait until the next year and then give them another chance. So be careful during those, not careful, be responsible during these 4 weeks, because your performance is being observed, and this is basically a selection phase. But yes, once or as long as you do well on the test, and most of you will do very well, I have no doubt that you all have the necessary mental capacity and the necessary discipline to do well. So as long as you do well, we will then have a couple of weeks when we will review your performance, select those who advance to the next stage, send you your official acceptance letters for the practical phase, and then form the teams. And so sometime in the first days of October, you will be placed on international teams, and you will receive an email with the names, countries, and email addresses of your team members. And literally the email will say, hey, John, congratulations, you have passed the theory test. You now advance to the practical phase. So here is your team. And you will see 7 names or so, and everybody will be from a different country. And your job will be to reach out to those people first and introduce yourself. And then as the next task, you will have to select one of the client companies. So there will be probably about 10 companies that will participate this semester, and your team will be free to choose anyone you like. And you will choose one company that you think you can help. And then you will spend the rest of the semester working on developing the challenge, the solution to that challenge. And then at the end, you will submit your work, and we will review it and select the winners. Throughout the semester, we will have webinars with the client companies. So you will be able to meet the managers or the owners of the company that you selected. as well as you will be able to ask questions and maybe share some of your ideas and get some maybe feedback on your work. And in the end, you will submit your report and we will review it, send it to the client, and select the winners. We will also try to organize presentations, live presentations of the students to the clients, but we will have to see how many teams we will have at that time. If all of you passed the readiness test, if all of you passed the theory test, out of 1,400 people, that would be what, about 200 teams or something like that, right? And if we have 200 teams, even if there are 10 clients, that means that we have about 20 teams per client. And so if we gave everyone a chance to present to the client, the manager of the company would probably have to quit the job and just listen to those presentations again and again, because it takes time. It takes what, about 20 minutes to do the presentation, the break between the presentations. So it will take several days just to present. And so we'll have to see if we'll be able to do it. So if we have fewer teams, which likely we will, maybe we will be able to do those presentations. If we have many teams, maybe what we will do is we will ask you to record your presentation. Then we'll select the best ones, and then the best ones will be presented live to the clients, whereas the rest will be a written report and a recording of the presentation. But that's basically how it goes. And at the end, you will receive ex-culture certificates and ex-culture recommendation letters. They're very detailed. It's like 7 pages. The recommendation letter, it explains in great detail what you do. It explains that you worked with people from all around the world and that you worked on a real challenge from a real company. And this is what you learned. And this is what you had to deal with. And this is how you performed. And then a detailed review of your performance and the skills that you acquired. And then in the end, obviously, a recommendation either for a job or for a scholarship or whatever, is needed and appropriate there. And so we hear a lot of stories, especially from the university students who would apply, for jobs and show up for the job interview and discover that there are 10, 20, 30, 50 other applicants for that job. And they say, I'm not any different. I'm scared. I mean, how can I get that job when there are so many other qualified applicants? And so then they would have the job interview and they see that the interviewer is sort of bored and is falling asleep because so many interviews and everybody is the same. And then the student says, let me see if I have a copy of the certificate. So there will be a certificate like this that you will get and a recommendation letter. And the student says, and then I show them the ex-culture certificate and I say, hey, but in addition to all the other things that I've done, I've completed also a real international business consulting project for a real company. And I worked with people from like 6 different countries and I had all those webinars and I worked with people from all around the world and I had all those guest speakers, professors. And then the interviewer wakes up and says, oh, tell me more. I've never seen anyone of your age to complete a real consulting project with people from all around the world. And before they know it, they got the job. Or in your case, if you're younger, maybe got admitted to the university, or maybe get that scholarship, or maybe got admitted to that private school. So all of that is, has happened hundreds of times. And then in addition, what we also do twice a year, we invite our best students for a face-to-face meeting with their team. And I'm not sure if you see my pictures here. So I don't have the space in my office. So, but each of those pictures there is a picture from the ex-culture symposia that we had in different countries. So we had one in Turkey, and then Florida in the United States, Atlanta in the United States, and then we had Mexico, Washington, D.C., Miami. This one is from a few weeks ago from Calgary, Canada. So we had a symposium just a few weeks ago in Canada. We had 150 students and about 50 professors. And so that's the group of the students. And this time, actually, we invited some kids. So because we already had some children who participated in the project and did well. So we had 2 teams. We had 8 children, I believe, total. And so from different countries. And they did very well. In fact, they didn't win the competition at the symposium because they were up against the best university students. But they still did very well. And most of the companies commented on how well they presented, how well they did. So that was quite impressive. So our next meeting will be in 6 weeks in Texas, in San Antonio, Texas. So that one is too late for you. But then the next one will be in Singapore in July. So those of you who do well will be potentially invited to that meeting in Singapore. and maybe you will even meet your team members in person. I hope I will meet you in person. So that will be something as the next phase. Again, the symposium is not required, and in fact, most people will not even be invited. But if you do well, you will have an opportunity to visit one of those meetings. That's pretty much all I wanted to say as far as the review. So now let me see if there are any questions here. And then also, if you would like to ask a question, you can raise your hand, and I will add you to the panel here, and we will talk. And so let's see. Yeah. So all right, let me try to add a few people, and let me try to talk to them and see what questions they have. So, and meanwhile, let me read the questions here. So if I add you to the panelist, you may get disconnected for a second, and then we'll appear here in the panel. So am I pronouncing that correctly? Tejas or Tejas? You had a question? Go ahead, please, sir.
Tejas.
Yeah, so tell me where you are from, what country you're in, and then what your question is.
I'm from Nanded, India.
India, very nice. So what's your question?
I basically belong to a low income family. I do not have access to the computer mostly. So I wanted to know how can if I can use my mobile device to cooperate with the virtual team or to complete the tests.
This is a very good question. So in fact, you asked two separate questions, but both are very, very good. So when it comes to participation fees, and I didn't talk much about that. So the Xculture project is a nonprofit. So it's run by literally hundreds of professors, and our main job is to teach our university students, but now we also have the responsibility for you, non-student participants, professionals, kids. And so obviously we do this not for the money. So when you saw the prices that we charge, that's nominal just to cover some of the basic expenses that we need to cover. Moreover, if you come from a low-income family, you may even qualify for the full stipend. So if you come either from so-called developing country, or if your family happens to be not very rich, and even the low fee that we charge you cannot pay, we will work with you and we will make sure you can still participate. So we are not in this for the money. And so if we have a talented student who does very well on the exams, and we see that you're dedicated and you are smart and you can follow the deadlines and you do well on the tests, but you just cannot pay, we will work with you and we'll make sure that you can participate for free. When it comes to the technology, so that's a little bit difficult or more challenging, but still doable. So obviously you need to be able to go online on a regular basis, because you will have to communicate with your team. So at the very least, you need to be able to send emails regularly. There will be some webinars that you need to attend. There will be probably team meetings in Skype or Zoom or Google Handouts, whichever system you will use. So you obviously will have to communicate with your team. Do you need a computer for that? Not necessarily. So for example, now you joined me, I assume that's from the phone, and I can see you, you can see me, it works very well. I assume you can also use your phone to write the emails. It will be a little bit more difficult to write the business report on the phone, but I assume it's still possible. You can still download document editing software, and you can still work with your team. It will be more difficult because, again, the keyboard is small and it's hard to type, but in theory, it's possible. Worst case scenario, maybe in your team, you will distribute the workload in a way that you will work mainly on, let's say, you will do some research, or you will generate more ideas, or maybe you'll do some copy editing, whereas somebody else will do most of the writing. And that's also a viable way forward. So I'm sure you'll find a way with your team to make it work. It would be probably necessary, or at least extremely beneficial, to have access to like a full-scale computer with a keyboard and everything, because as I said, the ultimate outcome of your work will be a report that your team has to write. But still, if you only use a smartphone for that, I suppose it would be doable. So it will be more difficult for you, but it would be doable. We had participants from countries where, internet is not stable, where, people may not have computers. And so we had participants like from some African countries, or we had this very smart kid last semester from Afghanistan. And so literally sometimes they would have a power outage, and for a few days they just don't have the electricity. Or he would need to book some computer time in the library and would have to go to the library at the school and use the school computer or library computer. That's fine. It's more challenge for them. And those of us who are in the United States or in Europe may not even understand how could that be. But I mean, it is the life, and that's how it works. And as long as you can make it work from your end, I think it works for us. And in fact, people like you are specifically people we're interested in. Children who have access to best schooling, best computers, best technology. I think they will do fine no matter what. So it's children who may be deprived of those opportunities. That's where we can really help. And so those are the children we're most interested in. So I think you'll do just fine. No worries. As long as you can communicate like we're communicating now, at least on a regular basis with your team, I think it should be fine. Does that answer your
Thank you. Sir. Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
So I added a few more people here to the panel list, and I'll move you back to your attendee status, because I think I have a limit of 4 people at the same time or something like that. But so let's see who else is here. Gain and Valentino, if you have questions, you can you can unmute your microphones and talk. And meanwhile, I'll see if I have more people asking questions here. So yes, go ahead. Valentino, tell us where you are and what your question is.
I'm Valentino from Bariloche, Argentina.
Very nice.
And my question is, during the next 4 weeks, we are going to receive our test on our email.
Yes.
And when we should send it back to
you will have until the end of the day on Sunday every week to complete the test. So you will receive the link to the test. Usually, I said Monday before, but usually it will be Tuesday. And the reason for that is because the deadline is Sunday. So we will download the data on Monday, review, make sure that the person passes the test. And then those who pass will get the link to the next test. And so most of the days or most of the weeks, you will receive the link to the test sometime on Tuesday. And then you will have the rest of the week to complete the test. You will have access to the training materials from the very beginning of the week. In fact, we'll probably open them a little earlier. So if you go to the resource page, let me show you here now. If you go to the resource page, you can see training materials now available for week 1. So you have everything. And then on September the 1st, we will release the materials for week 2, and so on and so on. So you will be able to download those videos and text-based training materials. So you can start preparing basically now. But the link will come by email sometime on Tuesday probably, and then you will have several days to take the test. The tests are not timed, so you can take as much time as you want, but the important thing is that you submit it by Sunday midnight. And so this way, on Monday, we will review the results, and as long as you did well, you will then advance to the next level.
Okay, right. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, anyone else? So I see here is Sabna and twice, apparently from 2 different devices. And I see a bunch of other people without the video. So if you guys want to join us, go ahead and unmute your microphone and ask a question. Subhana, go ahead, please. I think.
Sir, so
yes.
My question to you was about how much time should we spend in this project?
You're asking a very, very good question. My interest, or if it were up to me, I'd like you to spend a lot of time on it. So I'd like you to study hard and do a lot of research and spend a lot of time on writing the report. At the same time, I know you're busy and you probably don't have all the time in the world. So in terms of the time expectations, it would be probably, I'd like to say, depending on your English proficiency and depending on how fast you learn, you will probably need about 2 hours to review the training materials, and then maybe another half an hour to an hour to take the test. So the test is relatively short, it's only a few questions, but you want to check everything and make sure that you do well. So you'll probably spend about 3 hours per week during the theory training. Again, some people spend more because maybe the English is not so good and they need to spend a little bit more time. Some people will do some additional readings, some additional research, but it shouldn't take more than 2-3 hours if you are, prepared and just need to review the materials. When the practical phase starts, when you work in a team, again, it varies. At the very least, you will probably be expected to send a few emails every week. You will probably have, most teams would have at least 1 meeting per week, in Skype or Google Docs, or maybe somewhere in like Facebook groups or whatever tool they choose to communicate, or Slack. So I'm guessing it will be probably about an hour just to communicate with your team, probably another hour, maybe plus or minus, to do some research, maybe another hour to write up some stuff. So I'd say that at a minimum, you probably will be spending about 3 hours per week, again, working on this challenge. and possibly a little bit more towards the end of the project when you're trying to finish up your report. So at that time, you realize that some sections need more work, maybe some things need more research. So it may be a little bit more work at that time. At the same time, I know that some team members spend much, much more time. As I told you, when my kids participated, sometimes they would spend hours and hours on Skype talking to their team members about anything and everything. And in fact, at some point, I had to say to them, guys, you need to stop because you also have school. You need to do your homework. I know you're enjoying working, talking to your team members from around the world, but still, you have other things to do. So some teams will spend a lot of time, but at a minimum, I'd say you probably should count at about 3 hours per week, and then maybe some weeks a little bit more. But then again, if you would like to spend more time, by all means, please do. So the last week will be a little bit busier, so it probably will be a little bit more time, but other than that, it should be fine. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Sir, one more question. I had one more
please
question,
go ahead.
if I...
Sure.
So my question to you was about, is there any expectations from the stipend participants? Like, do they need to meet a certain criteria to continue their stipend?
Yes, very good question. Yes, thank you. I should have talked about that before, but yes. So if you applied for a stipend, as you saw, we approved many applicants, but the expectation there is that, yes, you will have to do very well on the test. Usually we set 75% or higher correct answers on the test to advance to the next level. But if you are to maintain your stipend, I don't remember what the threshold is, but you basically have to answer questions, even better, like 90 and up. And the reason for that is this, and I hope I will be able to explain it well. X-Culture is a team-based project. And if somebody on the team decides to drop out, it's a problem for the whole team. So there are 7 people, and then let's say somebody in the middle of the project decides that, you know what, it's too much time, too much work, and I don't want to do it. And so when that happens, it's not a huge problem, but it's still a problem for the whole team. And so to a large extent, when we charge for participation, when there is a fee, it's not only because we need some resources to run the project. We need to hire help, we need to pay for paper, for the website, all kinds of expenses. But it is also a way to sort of test the person's interest and to nurture that commitment. And as you probably know, people do not value what is free. So if it's free, they're like, yeah, maybe I'll try, but if I don't like it, I'll drop out. And so one of the big important reasons why there is a participation fee is because, again, if the person is not interested enough, if the person is not committed enough, the person will probably say, yeah, I can pay that, a few dollars, but I don't want to. So, and the person drops out. Now, those of you who get a stipend, you get to participate for free. And so my concern here is, well, will this person stick around? Will this person, deliver and meet the team's expectations? Because this person is not paying, this person got a full stipend. So this person technically may say, yeah, it's free, I don't care. Or, yeah, it doesn't cost me anything, I'll just drop out and maybe try again next year. And so we don't want that to happen. So as a way to sort of compensate for this, lack of payment or absence of payment, we look at your performance. And so if we see that you do well on the tests, you complete every test on time, and you get high grades, we know that even though this person is not paying, probably the person is serious enough. So probably here, Subhana is serious enough, even though she got a stipend, but I see she did very well on every test. So we can be confident that she will do well as a team member. So I hope that makes sense, but this is a big issue. When we did it the first time, there was no payment whatsoever. It was completely free for everyone. And we lost many people in the middle of the semester just because, they thought it would be fun to participate, and then they changed their mind. Then once we instituted the payment, even though it's not a lot of money, it's like, I don't know what, like $10 per month or something like that, probably everybody can afford it. But that, fewer people applied, but those who did apply did much, much better. And we think that that's, that matters. Does that make sense to you?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, wonderful. All right, any other questions? Because we have not much time. We have another webinar in a few minutes for the university students, so we also have to help them. But who goes next? Minko?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Good
Minko,
morning.
where are you? I forgot to ask Subhana what country she's in. So where are you located?
I am from Bulgaria.
Bulgaria. Minko, did you know, any chance you're related to, you probably are not related, There is a professor by that same name, Minkov, and he's one of the biggest names in the cross-cultural business research. So I'm not sure if you're related in any way to any professors.
No, I'm not related, but
No.
I may know him. I don't know.
Yeah, so, but anyway, there is a professor with that name who is one of the biggest names in the field of cross-cultural business. So I thought maybe you're his son or something. But anyway,
No,
so Miko,
I'm not.
question.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What's your
Yeah, my question was, is there any particular skills that we develop during this project?
Is there a particular excuse you said?
No, particular skills.
Oh,
Particular
skills. Yes. Very good question. Yes, there are two main blocks of skills that you will develop. One, cross-cultural collaboration skills. So you will be with people on a team with people from all around the world, and you will gain experience and skills in working with people from other countries. And that involves both, how to communicate online using online communication, collaboration tools such as Google Docs, Dropbox, Skype, Slack, Trello. Some people have used it and maybe you already know how to use them. Most people never had to use them. So how do you write a document together with people from 7 different countries? Well, Google Docs can help, or Dropbox can help, or maybe Box or OneDrive. So all of those are wonderful tools for collaboration when every co-author is in a different country. How do you schedule a meeting when everybody is in a different time zone? Well, there is a very interesting tool called Doodle, which allows you to find the time that works for everyone on the team, allows you to account for the time zone differences so that you meet at the same time, so that so that's the kind of technical side. Then interpersonal side, you will learn that maybe people from Bulgaria have a different way of thinking and seeing things than people maybe from China or people from India. You will discover that they have different work style, different management style, different cultural values. And so it may be sometimes difficult and even frustrating because, it seems to you that this is the way to do it. And your Chinese team member says, no, we want to do it differently. And you will realize, oh, maybe his kind of values are different or culture is different. So next time when you have to do it as part of your project at a university level or maybe as your job, you will know what to expect. You will know how to deal with those cultural differences. There will be different accents, different languages, different, rules. And so all of that will be challenging and maybe even frustrating sometimes, but that's the whole point. We would like you to experience this. So that's the cross-cultural aspect. But then the other side of the story is the business component. So you will have, as I said, a real client, and you will try to develop a solution to that real business challenge. And yes, you will not become a super businessman, a super, business guru by the end of the project, but you will definitely have worked on challenges or thought about business issues that most people of your age have never tried to think about. I mean, how many kids of your age think about, what would be the best market for a company that makes chocolate? What would be the best market entry mode? What is a joint venture? What is a franchising company? What is, the best marketing strategy? So it's not that people don't know that, it just, they never have to think about it. And so by the end of the project, you will have developed essentially a business plan. Again, it may not be the best business plan in the world, but you will have that experience. And so when you will be applying for jobs, or maybe when you be going, to the university, especially if you will be applying to, like a business degree or something. So you will definitely stand out and look different than normal applicants of your age who have never even thought about it. And you here received some training, theoretical training, and then applied it on practice. And so it will be a very useful experience. And then obviously, if you come to the meeting, face-to-face meeting later on, again, you will meet those people face-to-face. You will meet the entrepreneurs. In Calgary, we visited a bunch of companies. We met with local community leaders, politicians, all kinds of people, that play a role there in the city, the mayor's office. And so again, that's an interesting experience too. So you learn something new. So yeah, that's a good question. I see here Bridget Epps, and Bridget Epps is a very special guest here. So I know her kids are participating this time, but Bridget was one of our students here in Greensboro, and so participated as a student some time ago. I'm not sure, Bridget, I don't see your picture. Are you able to talk? You had a question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, so that's not the mom, that's one of the kids, right?
Yes, sir.
Aha, very nice to meet you. You have a very talented, very hardworking mom, so nice to meet you now. What question you have?
Okay, this is Seneca. If my team is not selected as a winner, can I still go to the symposium if I just want to learn more?
Very good question. Probably yes. So we do realize that different teams may have, how should I put it, may not be of the same, I guess, almost luck, I would like to say. You know, some teams will be lucky and will have very, very smart team members, and maybe the parents will help them more because maybe they have some business experience, and maybe everything just happens to go very well and everybody loves each other. And so obviously they have a much better chance of winning the competition. And then another team member may get into a team maybe, you know, where some team members are not as diligent, or maybe, you know, have more difficulties with the language, or maybe didn't really have much support from the parents because the parents may be busy at work or don't have that experience. And so we recognize that sometimes a very, very smart, deserving student can be on a team that just wasn't as strong, you know, to win. And so we always, when selecting participants for the symposium, we always look at individual performance as well. So if we see that you did well and you got high peer evaluations and you attended all the weekly review webinars and you asked good questions, so obviously that counts. So even if your team will not win as a team, there is still a very good chance individually you will still be invited to that meeting. And so when we say you will meet your team face to face, the truth is that sometimes, in fact, almost every time, the whole team cannot attend those meetings. And so what we do for those meetings, we form brand new teams. So even though we will invite members of all winning teams and all of those members, in most cases, let's say you have 7 team members, and let's say you win the competition and the whole team is invited. Chances are there will be someone on your team who is not able to go because he has school at that time, or she has school, or maybe some family vacation, or maybe simply, you know, the schedule is such, or maybe there is no money for the trip, or maybe something else that prevents them from going. So even if we invited your whole team, chances are there will be only maybe 3 or 4 team members who can actually attend the meeting. So what we do is, in most cases, we invite the members of the best teams, and then quite a few people who are just simply strong students, even though their team didn't win. And then we form all new teams. So you will still be able to meet some of your team members, but you will not necessarily be competing again in the second, you know, separate competition for that meeting. You may be on a whole new team this time. So this way you will meet even more people. You will still meet some of your team members, but there is a good chance, you know, it would be beneficial for you to meet some new people and maybe work on a new team. So therefore, don't worry. And if you happen to have a team maybe that is not the strongest one, or maybe if there is some sort of, I don't know, conflict or challenge in the team, or maybe, you know, if you just chose a challenge because you liked the product, but then you realize, oh, it's so much more difficult than I thought, and you see that you may not win the competition, don't worry, because we not only pay attention to your performance as a team, but also to your performance individually. So no worries about that.
Thank you, Dr.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Tars, and everyone. Nice to meet you and everyone else.
Wow, you're so polite. I mean, not only your mom always makes a very good impression on professors, but I can tell, you know, that she raises her kids very well. Very nice to meet you. And since you are here in Greensboro, I know we have some participants. Maybe we'll even organize some sort of a meeting here, I don't know, for the local students. We had a few students last semester and I met some of them in person. So maybe we'll do the same thing this time. So let's see how it goes.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Thank you so much. And I see quite a few other people you would like to ask the questions, but I need to stop here. So I suggest let's do the following. If you have a question, please type it up in the Q&A window, and then I will answer them in text by email at the end once I'm done with all the webinars for today, because I have 2 more webinars today. We have one for the university students and professors in a few minutes at 10 o'clock my time. And then after that, we have one for the coaches. So the students who do very well, we invite them to become coaches for the new generation of ex-culture students. We even had a couple of kids, they were 16 and 15, I believe, last semester, and they did very, very well. So those who do well, they become coaches, like mentors for the new generation of ex-culture students. They have to complete a lot of additional theoretical training. We teach them how to resolve conflicts, cross-cultural communication, international business, how to provide feedback, how to counsel teams. So we teach them a lot on how to be team mentors, team managers, team coaches. And then they basically help us run this project, and they become sort of like the older brothers and sisters for the new generation of ex-culture students. And so we always invite quite a few of those. This time we have about 200 people who applied, but they will again have to complete the training. And then once they're done, we will select 40 who will be the coaches to the new cohort of ex-culture students. And so I have a webinar for the cohort of those students as well. So if you have a question, and I see we have about 20 people who raised their hand, unfortunately, we don't have the time to talk to each of you. But if you type your questions in the Q&A window, I will then answer them by email, and I will send an email to everybody if it's something that we didn't cover in the live session. And also, don't worry, we will have one of these review sessions every weekend, every Saturday. So hopefully you will be able to attend them if you have questions, and we will have more opportunities to talk. And so there will be guest speakers, there will be professors, not just me. And then obviously you will have a chance to ask your questions as well. So I'll keep the window open for a few more minutes, but we will have to stop in about 2 minutes so I can start the next webinar. And yeah, very nice to meet you all. Thank you very much for your active participation. And yeah, let's hope it will be a good semester. Yeah, let's hope you will. Yeah, so somebody is asking about the password. It's 2019-2. So 20192. So that's the password. And I think I sent you an email with both the link and the password. So if you check your email address, you will have that there. And I will send another one later today so that you have access to all the stuff. So lots of questions I see. I will answer them by email later today. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. And let's hope it will be a good educational experience for you. So, and maybe we'll even meet some of you in Singapore in the summer. All right. Bye-bye.